Oh, there it is. Noisy, aren't I? I hope you can, this is kind of a trial and error thing. So this morning, I'll wish you a good morning, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Truckee Meadows Fire District regular meeting of December 12th, 2023, and call this meeting to order. I think I'm supposed to do that. Chief Moore, would you please lead us in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Chair Alexis Hill is absent today. Vice Chair Jeannie Herman.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Present.
Mary Louise Garcia.
Here.
Clara Andriola.
Present.
Fire Chief Charles Moore.
Here.
Deputy District Attorney Wade Karner.
Here.
And I'm Kathy Smith, Chief Deputy Clerk. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chief Moore, do you have any announcements?
I do believe we're going to do item 3 first, public comment, the initial public
Okay.
comment, so I'll lead us into that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all
There
right.
I go.
Item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comments during individual action items with comments limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
No one has signed yet today.
Okay. Well, it's early yet. So Chief Moore, do you have any announcements?
I do. Item 4 is Commissioner Fire Chief's announcements, requests for information, topics for future agendas, and statements relating to items not on the agenda. I'd like to let the public know that today is a yellow air quality day, so we have canceled open burning for the sake of trying to keep the air as clean as possible. So that is the reason why there's no open burning today. And we had, item 2, we had scheduled a possible meeting on January 9th for the board, and there may be a reason to cancel January's meeting because I believe there's a function going on for the BCC which may conflict. So I don't think we have anything that's urgent coming up in January, so we may just cancel January and just defer to February, but I'll clarify that for you and for the public. That's all the announcements I have.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or requests? No one? We'll go on to approve the meeting minutes from November 7th.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, I would accept, okay, let's take a vote then. Ayes?
Aye.
How many say aye?
Aye.
It looks like we have an aye would be an aye also, and so that's 4 for it, for accepting the minutes. I've always been full of stage fright, so you'll have to put up with me a little bit. Okay, so now we have a report from the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2487.
Good morning, Patrick Walsh for the record, President 2487. This meeting's a little bittersweet. This will be my final meeting as president of Local 2487. I just want to thank all of you, and it's been an honor to represent our members in front of you guys and for all of us. But I would like to introduce James Clauser, the oncoming president of 2047. So say a few words.
Pleasure to meet you. My name is Jim Klauser. I'm a captain with Truckee Meadows Fire. I've been there since 2012, previously at North Line and before that Central Line. Before I continue, I just want to say a huge thank you to Pat Walsh for all of the work that he's done. We owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude. He's done a fantastic job. We're very proud of the work he's done, and I hope I can pick up the torch and carry it forward and maintain the integrity and the work ethic that he's maintained all the way through his tenure as president. So, thanks, buddy. Thank you.
We will miss one of you, and thank you very much for your service, and welcome to you, and
Thank you.
wish you happy times here.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Look forward to meeting each of you, and we'll get to know each other and the vision for the board and the vision for the future of the county and the department. So, pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, number 7, we have a fire chief report.
First, green waste has closed, and we had a lot of citizens use the program, as well as the curbside chipping. In your inbox is an email from a citizen who was very grateful for the curbside chipping that we brought to him, and he's very, very complimentary of our crews, which doesn't surprise me because they dispense a lot of courtesy when they contact the public. In your packet, you'll see a map that we prepared that shows where people are bringing their green waste from, and I think that's something that's fairly telling. We have people from Reno, from Sparks, from all over the county, of course, using the services, and we'll use this map to perhaps use it as grant data in the future, but I think it really shows that people are very eager to use. Sorry.
It's okay.
I can't shut it off unless I turn my phone off completely, which I'll do right now. Apologize for that. But the numbers are up slightly, and we're certainly thankful for the citizens creating their defensible space around their homes. Capital projects update. We are ready to go if the board considers the architectural contracts. We will have a kickoff meeting later this week, and the design starts in earnest on Washoe Valley and on the Apple Fire Station. Again, Station 37 Apparatus Bay in Hidden Valley is complete. We just want to kick all of those stations off at the same time with the same contractor doing all 3 stations simultaneously. So we're still working on the financing piece, but we're just about ready to go for the design. And then finally, the strategic plan update and standards of cover. We'll probably want to spend a little bit of time on the strategic plan then in February if we don't have a meeting in January. I want to mention the standards of cover, which is maybe a little bit confusing to the public. The standards of cover really is a document and a study that tells us how well we're doing with our service level, and we look for gaps within our service level and response time. In the document that was done in 2011, we assigned response time based on land use. So in suburban, we have the quickest response time. In rural, we have the second fastest response time. In frontier, which could be way, way out from the built environment, that's where you have the longest response time. It just kind of makes sense that the farther you are away from the urban core, the longer it's going to take for us to get to you. But what the study does is look for any gaps in terms of numbers of calls and any pockets within the community. And it tells us where we're likely to need future fire stations going forward. Mm-hmm. And there are other components that we'll want to look at too. I believe we should probably look at, since we're working on a common CAD, where would we be serving other jurisdictions relative to their calls? I think you know that I'm passionate about responding to priority 1 calls if there's a fire station that's close by, but that call doesn't happen to land in our jurisdiction. that I think needs to be a part of the study so that we're not neglecting that as we move forward, as we design the new hexagon CAD layout. So we'll have to spend some time on that, but it is going to take probably a good 9 months to get that complete. But I'll give you progress reports as we go along with the strategic plan. And then finally, the October response statistics. I'll let that report stand unless you have any particular questions on any calls that we've had.
Yes.
I have a question. Thank you, Chief, and thanks to the entire team. Thanks for sharing the email, and I'm sure there's even more great responses that maybe aren't shared in an email, but it's wonderful, all the work that you do. And I have a question, and I'm happy to talk to the appropriate person after the meeting. But and thanks for these stats in terms of the monthly report. It was really helpful. Spanish Springs, as an example, has second highest calls. And I'm wondering if I could speak with someone later about the detail, because I don't, even though they're broke down, and thanks for that as well in terms of breaking down the calls, but it would be great to know a little bit more detail. And then I noticed that obviously the calls that are made for false alarm are not significantly high in the big picture of 914 calls, but it's still 40 calls. And I'm just wondering, is that has that increased, or is that just a steady number that's comparable to previous years? I was just wondering how that compared, because obviously initiating resources and getting that done and then having to turn around, if you will, there's a cost impact on that as well.
Sure.
And I was just curious how that number compared with previous years. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Offhand, I don't know if that's an increase or not, so I'll look at that and report back to you. False alarms can range in a number of, manifest in a number of different ways. A citizen may see smoke and call it in as a structure fire. They may see something that they're concerned about and call it in, and we get there and there's really no emergency. It can even be attributable to an automatic fire alarm that's tripped accidentally. So that requires a little further breakdown for you to really understand why they're coming in. But they're up maybe a little bit, but I don't think significantly more. And then to your question about a call breakout on Spanish Springs and each commissioner's district, I'd be happy to show you the types of calls that we respond to then from each one of our stations. That's pretty easy to do. So in the next month, and perhaps even in the report to the community, I'll break that out for 2023.
That'd be great. I really appreciate it. I think everyone would, like to at least dive into a little bit more detail. But I do think comparisons are also helpful, but I know that has to be balanced with growth too. So just because it might increase by a certain percentage, having the growth balance in there. But I think it's a good comparison to see, because I know the dedication of preventative, education and partnerships and the community outreach that you all do is to try and have some of this, mitigated prior to actually having something in place, especially like with kitchen fires and some home things that happen that can be prevented. So through education that you guys are dedicated to doing. So I really appreciate in advance that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, that concludes my report, unless there's any other questions.
Thank you. Then we'll roll on to item 8.
Any public comment? It's listed for possible action. But not if they're not taken. Okay, thank you. Item 8. Item 8 is a recommendation to approve a revised 3-year contract in accordance with NRS 474.580 with NV Energy for the purpose of elimination of wildland fire-related hazards, fuels, and standby services to be paid to Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District on a time and materials basis, which includes personnel and equipment, use costs in an estimated amount of $17,610,392.07, effective January 1, 2024. And Chief Eisenhagen will present this, and I want to introduce to you Mr. Kevin Lawson, who is the Fire Management Officer for NV Energy and runs this program on behalf of NV Energy.
All right. Excuse me. Good morning. August Eisenhagen, Division Chief, Truckee Meadows Fire, for the record. The board is fully aware we've been in a relationship with NV Energy for going on 4 years this spring, mainly centered around hazardous fuels reduction, but also standby services. The board may remember we just revisited this contract roughly a year ago for another 3-year contract period. Long story short, what drove this exercise is this summer when the PUC visited the budget for the 2022 calendar year for NV Energy. They had concerns given the differences in the way that different agencies were doing business. So that led to numerous meetings. I think we've had 8 4-hour-plus discussions with dozens of chief officers, NV Energy personnel, legal staff, and fiscal staff. And this is the result of those meetings to get us all on board with the same process and same contract language. That's it in a nutshell. We're open to questions if you have any. Again, Kevin is here from the NV Energy side.
No one? Okay. I just wanted to say that this program, it's one of the best partnerships I've seen anywhere. It's amazing, and I'm really pleased that you are continuing on with it, and it's just a lifesaver for this county.
Absolutely. It has been key to the development of the Wildland Division for Truckee Meadows since day one. And huge thanks to NV Energy for corralling all of us chiefs and legal folks and fiscal folks to make this happen in the short time frame.
Thank you so much. And now we have an action item that we need to vote on.
Madam Chair, happy to make a motion, and I wouldn't say 8 meetings is a quick turnaround or easy task, so kudos. I move to approve a revised 3-year contract with NV Energy as outlined in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. And
Madam Vice Chair, we don't have anybody for public comment.
okay, thank you. So I say aye if you're for this.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that makes it unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That was easy. Okay. Number 9 is the next item we have.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 9 is a recommendation authorizing the fire chief to issue a contract award to Western Truck and Trailer Sales Incorporated, located at 1885 South 900 West, Salt Lake City, Utah, for the purchase of 1 low-bed trailer for $155,400 in accordance with ITB number 323-24. This item is a lowboy trailer which we haul our dozer on in the event that we need a dozer at a wildland fire. And that's
Do we
it.
have any public comment?
No one has signed in.
Okay. So do we need to vote on this? And do I have a motion?
I've got a quick question,
Okay.
Madam Chair, to the
forgot
chief. Was there no responsive bidders in the state of Nevada? Just a general question that I always have is, why don't we keep our business local? And local could be local in this county or anywhere in the state. Thank you.
I'll ask Chief Jay Swiak to answer that.
Jay Swiak, Division Chief of the Training, Logistics, and Fleet Services. The trailer in question specifically that we're buying is spec'd out specifically for the dozer. We did put out an RFP for several quotes to come back. We didn't get a lot from that. And the ones that we did get, the one that we were awarding to is the one that met our specs. So although we would like to stay inside the state of Nevada, if they're not going to meet our specs or they can't provide what we need for our particular mission, we have to go with the one that does, because that's the best thing for the taxpayers.
Sure. Well, thank you. It's a question I'm always going to ask when we buy something out of state. I'm just curious about this particular trailer, if this is the only one on planet Earth, or if this is the only one in our state of Nevada, or if it's the only one available to do the job. I understand why, but I just was curious about if there was any responsive bidders or other trailers somewhere in the state that would have fulfilled your requirements. Thank you.
Sometimes, just to add to your question, sometimes what happens too is that dealers for particular regions within the United States may be located in another state. For example, our fire apparatus peers, the parent dealership is actually based out of Texas. It was originally based out of Utah before that. So even though they may be at another state, they're serving this area, so we're within their regional sales area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So there's no public comments, so we'll go forward with this.
Madam Chair, I'll move to authorize the fire chief to issue a contract award to Western Truck and Trailer Sales, Inc., located at 1885 South 900 West, Salt Lake City, Utah, for the purchase of one low-bed trailer for $155,400 in accordance with ITB number 323-24.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. And now we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And that would be, did you say aye? No? Yes? Okay, I did, okay, very good. I see that now. So it looks like we have another one passed here. Item 10 is our next item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 10 is a recommendation to approve an agreement between H&K Architects and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the architectural design and preparation of construction plans and specifications for the Apple Fire Station, as outlined in the attached proposal, for an estimated fee not to exceed $1,710,145. This fee is fronted by us, but then reimbursed by Apple, so there's actually no cost to Truckee Meadows taxpayers for this station. And in fact, when we're all said and done, the capital contribution will probably be somewhere around $15 million, if not more. So this is how we've run the services through Apple, is we pay the invoices and Apple then reimburses us once we sign off and that the work is complete. And so if this is approved, then this is really the lighting the fuse to the Apple Fire Station.
Thank you, Chief Moore. Is there any public comment on this?
Cliff Lowe?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Cliff Lowe. Much has been made of the similarities between the Apple Station and the Washoe Valley Consolidated Station. My comment, which is going to take way less than 3 minutes for a change, is to ask that either under this agenda item or the next agenda item that the chief would, on the record, explain the differences between the two stations. I don't know, I'm less familiar with the Apple Station, but certainly the Washoe Valley Station is going to need water tenders. There's, I believe, a plan to put an ambulance there. So I'd just like to hear about the differences between the two. Thank you. 45 seconds.
Thank you.
And no one else is signed in, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. It's time for us to vote on this, and do I have a motion?
I've got a quick
Oh,
question.
do you do?
Thank you, Chair. For
ignoring you.
the
I apologize.
Chief Moore, when you say light the fuse, how long does this fuse take to ignite and finish this project approximately? And just for the record, tell us about how long you think it'll be before this is operational, before we have groundbreaking, before we have the grand opening ceremonies, that type of thing. And I'm not going to hold you to it, but I'd just like to have a rough guesstimate, please.
Understood, Commissioner. Within that staff report, there is a timeline that's been laid out by the architect.
Sure, but again, I'd like it just on the record here.
Absolutely. So we're looking at breaking ground about a year from now for the Apple Station, and the construction will probably be 10 months to 12 months for that. So we're looking at well into 2025 to occupy it.
Very well. Yeah, and there's many times where things are available on staff report. The public doesn't always have access to the staff report, so sometimes I like to just get things on the record. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. If we're ready for
Madam
a-
Chair, if you're ready.
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to approve an agreement between H&K Architects and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the architectural design and development of the Apple Fire Station located east of Sparks for an estimated fee not to exceed $1,710,145.
I'll second.
Thank you both. And now, those who agree with this, say aye.
Aye.
Looks like we have an aye, and looks like we have another one in the books. Item 11 is our next item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Recommendation to approve an agreement between H&K Architects and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the architectural design and preparation of construction plans and specifications for the Washoe Valley Consolidated Station Number 30 to be located at 340 U.S. Highway 395 South as outlined in the attached proposal for an estimated fee not to exceed $1,037,870. So the station will be identical, really, to the Apple Station. There are differences, though, between the two sites. The Consolidated Station, there's water available through Tumwa, so we're not having to do the engineering for a well. There's lots of differences between, engineering-wise, between the two stations. Architecturally, they're very similar. And it is this station, we hope it to be the prototype station for all future stations that we want to build going forward. So we'll get some efficiencies in architectural design and fees, hopefully, going forward. So to be responsive to Mr. Lowe's question, the stations will have a Type 1 structural pumper, a Type 3 brush engine, and Washoe Valley will have an ambulance for sure, but I don't know about the Apple Station yet. We haven't talked to REMSA at any length about that. And there could be some other support equipment like snow plows or staff vehicles, whatnot, but those decisions haven't been made. So the timing is going to be the same for this station, really, as it is for Apple. So both of these stations will be designed concurrently and started by the architect concurrently and started by the contractor at roughly the same time. So with any luck, we'll be occupying that station in 2025. We do expect to start to do some site work on the Washoe Valley Station in late summer of '24.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
There is not.
Okay. Is there any comment from the board? Then we're ready to vote on this item. And do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve an agreement between H&K Architects and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the architectural design and preparation of construction plans and specifications for the Washoe Valley Consolidated Station Number 30, as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And if you agree with this, say aye.
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 Thank you, aye, as well. I believe we have another one. Okay. Number 12 is our next item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 12 is a recommendation to accept Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District's audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, as presented. Approve the reappropriation of $735,170 for fiscal year 2023-24 budget, consisting of $310,286 in the Journal Fund and $424,884 in the Capital Projects Fund for purchase order encumbrances committed in fiscal year 2022-23, and authorize the district to proceed with distribution of the financial statements for the public record as required by law. Our Chief Fiscal Officer, Cindy Vance, is here to present our numbers in mind-numbing detail if you want to go that far with them. But nevertheless, we are in good shape financially.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Vance, Chief Fiscal Officer. I'll summarize these lightly, and then we can go into more detail if you have any questions. The audited financial statements are copied in your package. It is an unqualified opinion, which is the highest opinion that the profession offers. They did report a material weakness related to employee benefits. I do have to put that on the record. This is one I did argue with them. I didn't necessarily agree, and my response to the finding states so. It is related to mostly employee benefit accruals related to the salary at year end and OPEB. The amounts, although identified it in my final testing, I thought they were small and didn't require approval or accrual because it's based on an estimate. The auditors disagreed. So it is in there. It is $54,000 for the emergency fund, which is only 2% of salaries, and it was about $27,000 for the EMS fund, 1% of the salaries. However, the rest, I think our position as a government is a very strong financial position. Our general fund is presented for the budget to actual on pages 47 and 48. You'll see it in different pages because there is GASB requirements, which is the Government Accounting Standards Boards, to include our stabilization fund and our vacation sick fund. But we really look at our budget to actuals, how we file with the NRS's, our operating activities. So the fund balance is up about 11%, which is $12.3 million, and that represents about 32.2% or 3.9 months of expenditures, excluding transfers out. Our total revenues were under budget by $96,000. $1 million of the consolidated taxes were under budget by $1 million, but our property taxes made up a proportion of that, and they were up by $600,000 over budget. So most of them were over budget, so we did end up with a small amount under budget of $96,000. During the year, as we can see, that consolidated taxes are coming in much lower than budgeted, and they are so delayed. We did put in controls where we did fill some vacant positions because we wanted to make sure our revenues were solid. So our expenditures are down about $3.5 million under budget. So that did end up with a increase in our total fund balance of $1.2 million, where we actually had budgeted for a decrease of over $3 million. So that does put us into good shapes, and it does allow us some extra funds that you'll see in the next agenda item to use for some one-time capital expenditures. Okay. Our other funds, let's see. The emergency fund, that has ended with a fund balance of $1.2 million. It includes about $418,000 still in receivables at year end and $1.2 in cash and investment. This is mostly used as assistance to other agencies for fire emergencies, but it is also used for when we have fire or other types of emergencies within our district, and those funds can be set aside under NRS. We did note a budget violation on this fund. There was at year end when we did the final accruals for salaries, there's $38,000 that pushed us over budget. So that is also reported in the financial statements. We do an augmentation on June 30th, and we try to project exactly where we'd be, what we were off a little bit. Those are all fully receivable, and we'll write that that'll go into a letter to the state on that budget violation. Okay. Our capital projects fund is really only funded through transfers from the general fund. So although the general fund receives all our revenues, we'll get a few revenues from the capital projects through sales of capital assets and investments. So we did also receive some reimbursements this year, which were higher than most years, of $913,000, and those are through our agreements with Apple and some E911 reimbursements for different tech projects and radio projects. As of June 30th, 2022, there was a balance of $1.2 million that will roll over to use for next year's capital projects. The Emergency Medical Services, a proprietary fund, this is the first year we see this in the financial statement, and this is our very first full business type fund, so it's full accrual. It also shows all our accrued liabilities for OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, and our capital assets actually show in this fund. So this fund, we had $2.9 million in revenues, $1.2 million were patient direct charges for ambulance services, and $1.7 was from the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program, which is the GEMT funds that we will receive annually. Operating expenses were $3.3 million, and those are mostly salaries and benefits for EMS, for the ambulance drivers and the EMS overhead divisions. You might see in that one shows a beginning net position because we did a augmentation. Since it is a new fund, however, much of its activities were in existence in fiscal year 2022. Those beginning amounts we did transfer in as a beginning fund balance adjustment. So those put in our assets and any liabilities for employee benefits. The Workers' Compensation Fund is an internal service fund, and all it does is pay City of Reno for liabilities related to heart and lung claims that may be presented after July 1st, 2012. So we are responsible for a portion of those claims for the employees that were transferred to the City of Reno. We bought out everything before July 1st, 2012, but with heart and lung, they can present at a later date. They don't need to present when the employees are active, so we will always be responsible for a portion of those employees. And that ends with a net position of $1.5 million to take us into next fiscal year, and we do hope that the money set aside in this fund will cover all future claims. Okay. We do also have a stabilization fund, and that has assets set aside of $633,000, and it's just there in case there is a unforeseen circumstance of decreases in revenues, so we can move that if that happens. The Sick and Annual Benefits Fund is just used to pay out the accrued liabilities for employees, vacation, sick, comp, either on retirement or other. We have a payout at year end of vacation. That has a fund balance of $264,000, so it did decrease over last year. Our total accrued liabilities when it comes to compensated absence is $8.4 million. So it is a very small portion of that 3.1, something I'd like to build in the future. The last fund is our debt service fund, and this is just to pay for principal and interest on our current debt of about $1 million in annual payments. It was paid $742,000 in principal and $262,000 in interest. And if there are any questions on any funds or any information, I can answer those for you. Exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any public comment?
There is none.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I do have a comment, not a question, but I know that for the short period of time I've been here, it's been really interesting to hear the real forward thinking in terms of looking at outside opportunities for funding, whether it be grants or contributions, and the presentation of the change in net position and showing that in 2022, those capital grants and contributions, were 504,000. So in 2023, you doubled that at 1.13. So I just think that that's a great opportunity to continue to look at those outside contributions and look at what we can do as we have all heard that there may be some decreases in terms of CTAX and other things, that really being ahead of it that way. And I'd like to commend the chief and you and everyone who's really looking at other opportunities to help. So I thought you should at least be recognized for doubling your grants and contributions. So thank you for that. It's great percentage of increase right there.
Thank you. The staff has done a good job at finding those grants and obtaining them.
Do you have a full-time person that does that, or how does that work, Chief?
We do have, they're not full-time with grants, but that is a primary segment of their work, and they do a lot of grant research for us, and we find opportunities all the time. So yes, we do have someone looking. Yeah.
Paid off. Thank you.
Any others? No? Okay. Thank you very much. There's no public comment? Okay. We have still got a quorum. Can we have a motion regarding this?
Madam Chair, I'll move to accept the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023 as presented, and to approve the reappropriation of $735,170 for the fiscal year 23-24 budget, consisting of $310,286 in the general fund and $424,884 in the capital projects fund for purchase order encumbrances committed in fiscal year 2022, 2023, and authorize the district to proceed with distribution of the financial statements for public record as required by law.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you both. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It looks like we have. Anyhow, it looks like that passed. So. Okay. Now we're on to item 13.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Before I read that into the record, I do need to clarify a statement that I made the last budget augmentation, which was wrong. And I believe I stated that the previous budget augmentation was going to be earmarked for our Type 1 structural engines. It was intended to pay for the additional program for the Apple Fire Station. As I've said before, we're adding an additional bay and a couple of bedrooms. So that is over and beyond what Apple is obligated to do. So I got that backwards, and Ms. Vance will clarify further my misstep on that. So item 13 is a recommendation to approve Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District Resolution 23-2023 to augment the district's fiscal year 23-24 general fund budget in the amount of $2,410,000, and Resolution TM 24-2023 to augment the district's fiscal year 23-24 capital projects fund budget in the amount of $2,410,000, and direct the district to make the appropriate budget adjustments.
Thank you. So last month, there was a budget augmentation for the capital fund, and it was actually for Apple Station, as Chief had mentioned, not for the apparatus, and that relates to the MOU and what they will reimburse us. So this augmentation is to pay for some apparatus and a portion of our responsibility for the Apple Station. So as we had stated in the financial statement report, we do have a fund balance. It did grow more than we anticipated, and it's a higher balance than what we plan to start this fiscal year 24 with. So it does provide us that opportunity to pay for these items, particularly with capital, because they're one-time fees. They're not fees that will be responsible for every year. So with that, we are asking to transfer $2.4 million into the capital projects fund. This is the first part of the augmentation for the general fund. And then once that gets into the capital projects fund, we can augment the capital projects fund to use that portion for, we have, there is the Pierce, those type 1 trucks, and that was a previous board approval to transfer the money in annually at 1/3, so that's included in there. Hidden Valley Phase 2, which is the apparatus bay for the Nevada Energy line extension for $85,000. Extrication equipment for $23,000. Some Station 46 remodel. We did include a portion in the fiscal year 24 budget. However, with the costs increasing, the proposal was about $110,000 more than anticipated, so $110,000 is asked to cover that additional cost. Retanking of 2 water tenders, which was approved last month, and this is the budget augmentation to go with that at $180,000, and then $1 million to set aside for any portion of the Apple Station that would be the district's responsibility for the planning parts of the additional rooms or larger bay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on those?
No board questions? Okay. All right. So is there any public comment on this item?
No one is signed in for this.
Thank you very much. Back to the board now for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District Resolution TM 23-23 as presented in the staff report.
Second the motion.
Thank you both.
Madam Chair, does that motion include TM 24-2023 as well?
It did, thank you. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of this motion? Say aye. Aye. There are no opposed? I know, okay. Thank you. There we go. That passes. And now we're on number 14, Commissioner and Fire Chief's announcements.
I have no additional announcements, Madam Vice Chair.
Do we have anything from the board? Thank you very much. And now we are into public comment.
Cliff Lowe?
Good morning again. For the record, Cliff Lowe. You folks are scheduled to be here in a week, but I don't know that I'll be able to attend, which is probably a little bit of a Christmas present to you folks, that you won't not likely to hear from me in a week. But I first of all want to take this moment to wish the commissioners, including absent Chair Hill, and for the moment, I'm sorry, that Commissioner Garcia isn't here, and the chief and the county manager, a very, very happy holidays and a happy new year. And I hope in the new year that the county has the resources to protect our lives, our health, and the property that we have and hold dear. On the BCC agenda in the following meeting, I'm back to talk about some of the same things. I said I'm especially sorry the other two commission members aren't here. Well, I'm happy to see Vice Chair Herman in the chair spot. Since the meeting where the master plan was approved and the first reading of the development code amendments were done, as it was asked, a group of us and I have met with two different people from the planning division. We met with Mr. Lloyd 2 weeks ago, and that meeting I would summarize by saying that it was cordial, of course, and Mr. Lloyd took our questions. There really wasn't much in the way of answers. And he said that he would need probably, I'm drawing a blank on his name now, Eric Young, to answer the questions. I twice had to reach out to Mr. Lloyd to ask when that would happen, and we finally met with Mr. Young yesterday. I got a feeling that some of you wish that I would go away and not waste your time, and perhaps would have liked to see the planning people accomplish that. And I have to say that they did not. And I think the reason that they did not is because there is some there. This is not a case of where there's no there. There is something there, and there continues to be something there. And in the regular BCC meeting, I will walk you through some things that I think will point out to you that we should not be done with the Master Plan and Development Code amendments. That is not to say that they should not, that I oppose, or I think you should oppose the agenda item specific to that today, but that there's more to be done and it needs to be done in short order. Thank you.
William T. Stewart.
Whoa, what's up? Good morning. For the record, William T. Stewart. So just want to talk to you a little bit more about FireWise and what we can do to help prevent fires from taking out more communities. I know I talked about that numerous times. It's a national program through the NFPA that helps communities be prepared for wildfire. That's something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's something that we can do a better job of preventing fires from taking place and making sure residents are prepared and educated. They know their fire score and they know exactly what's going on, because as we've seen, insurance is going through the roof. And one of the things that we continue to see is that this was a consortium down in Napa Valley. And all the big insurance agents have said the same thing: mitigate, mitigate, mitigate. Fuel is what takes out fires or takes out homes. And so one of the biggest things we can do is help decrease the fuels around people's property. I know, Chief, you talked about defensible space. I talked about grants. We have money available through the federal government to being brought down to the local level to help communities prepare for wildfire. Somerset is a perfect example of that. They got $3.2 million that will be doing a lot of fuels reduction and education and home hardening and prevention measures in that community. Arrow Creek, same thing. They are surrounded by the federal government, the Forest Service. So I know the Forest Service has lots of money. You know, working with Augie and going to meetings beforehand, getting everybody together to make sure that there's a plan in place to make sure that we don't continue to wipe out communities. Because if we don't, we're going to have insurance rates go through the roof as well. I talked to Commissioner Hill about the insurance up in Lake Tahoe. It's a big deal. Having a plan in place is paramount. So working together, I'll say it the same thing I did last time I was here, is having you guys talk to the state and federal officials to bring more money to our local community to help for wildfire. Prevention, education, as much as we can. That's what we want to do. That's what I've been doing for the past few years. I appreciate your time. God bless. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
And no one else has signed in.
No more? Okay. Well then, I want to thank you for your patience, for me doing my first whole meeting, and also wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.